Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Everyday Justice official launch. My name's Luke Geary. I'm a partner here at Mills Oakley and also the chair of the Everyday Justice Board. First up, I want to acknowledge the traditional elders of the lands on which each of us are meeting all around the country and indeed in overseas countries. I want to pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Now, my role here today is merely to be the MC. And I was actually just going to say hi and then start to get into the events of the launch as per the schedule today. But then on the way into the office, it hit me. We need to give the people what they want. What they want, if the last 12 months or more has taught me anything from the number of movies I've had to watch, is a true origin story. It was late 2009. I was a partner at the Mills Oakley office here in Sydney. And I left the firm to go on to what one of my partners up in Brisbane these days refers to as my 8-year sabbatical. At that time, I went to leave the firm to go and work for the Salvation Army and set up a free legal firm called Salvo's Legal. Funnily enough, that firm launched 10 years ago, almost to this day. And it was for the better part of that decade that through the partnership between Mills Oakley and Salvo's Legal, that Mills Oakley undertook its pro bono legal work. It had a tangible involvement in the work of Salvo's Legal, and through its contributions was able to help that firm to go on to serve in over 30,000 cases for people in need. And indeed, Salvo's Legal continues to do that work to this day. Now, I retired from Salvo's Legal a few years ago when my family and I moved to Brisbane. As many of you may know, Mills Oakley is on the precipice of being a top 5 Australian law firm. Recently, perhaps due to a combination of the tranquility of Brisbane and my own unrelenting restlessness, I got a little bit bored. And I said to John Naroka, John, I really think that the one thing missing from us that distinguishes us apart from the others in that small circle of the elite law firms is we need to have a really innovative and sophisticated professionalised pro bono service. I said to John, I really think probably we need to do something different. We need to be outward focused to the legal profession, not only to those lawyers that work within us, but we need to give something back to the legal profession. And I said, I think we really need to have a large scale national training opportunity for graduates and new lawyers, both young and older, to get stuck right in at the coalface in helping people in need and to learn what it's like to be social justice or public interest law lawyers. And I said that in doing so, not only would Mills Oakley be helping clients in need, but at the same time, it would be giving the profession well-resourced and supported opportunities to emerging members of the profession so as to grow exponentially the number of new lawyers out there with both the passion and a capability to serve people in need. And that they, in turn, would then go on to make a massive impact in their own communities after they left us. Well, John and the Mills Oakley board said yes immediately. And I set about putting out the A-team. First up, former apprentice of mine, and you'll meet her shortly, Amy Burton. Amy is an expert humanitarian lawyer in her own right. She was returned from having served some time as a master's student at Georgetown University in America under a John Monash scholarship. Almost immediately upon her return to Australia, I presented her with the opportunity to join the A-team. Without thinking twice, Amy said yes. She'd already studied in depth the global, US and Australian access to justice markets and identified the core non-existent feature of all was a service for what is to be described as the missing middle. Together, Amy and I agreed we would utilise the latest legal tech to ensure the service was efficient and truly accessible throughout all of Australia, no matter where the individual client might be, whether it's in a city, a regional or a remote or rural area. Next up in building the A-team, I needed to put in place the remaining members of the board who would work with me to steer the ship, so to speak. Now, governance is fundamental on any board, and particularly within the not-for-profit sector. When you talk about governance experts, there's only one name that comes to mind: Vera Visovic, my good friend and partner. When I asked Vera if she would join us, she didn't hesitate. So together with Vera and Amy, we settled on the objects and the purposes of what this new initiative, which we dubbed Everyday Justice, a free legal service for everyday people with everyday legal issues. The objects of the entity are as follows: primarily to provide access to justice to individuals and organisations who can demonstrate a need for legal assistance but cannot obtain legal aid or access the legal system without incurring substantial financial hardship, as well as access to justice for individuals whose matters raise an issue of public interest in areas such as social or public welfare, human rights, reconciliation, the natural environment, and the protection of animals. And that in each of those cases, they must raise issues which cannot otherwise be able to be pursued. And finally, and I will give you some more detail on this, the advancement of education. And in respect of everyday justice, it looks to serve that object, that is the advancement of education specifically, by creating a holistic learning environment for law graduates and newly qualified lawyers, including in the provision of opportunities to work in social justice and public interest cases, and providing mentors and professional development opportunities for law graduates and newly qualified lawyers. Coming to that final object led me to none other than Terry Mottershead. As Executive Director of the Centre for Legal Innovation at the College of Law Asia Pacific, Terry lives and breathes innovative legal startups. She's been a thought leader in people-centred legal practice for over 25 years. Terry immediately said yes. So now we had our board, our constitution, our managing lawyer. Now we needed to formalise a partnership with the College of Law. With an introduction from Terry, the conversation with the College of Law's CEO lasted about 60 seconds before the emphatic response came back, yes, yes, this is exactly what we need. So then with the company, the board, the managing lawyer, the partnership with the College of Law, and then along came Lauren, Legal Aid New South Wales' rising star. She was the perfect final addition to our starting lineup. I love it when a plan comes together. Well, now you've had that look back in time and a short introduction to us all, let's get on with the show. First and foremost, following those remarks, I want to introduce the two leaders of the organisations that comprise the spirit and ethos of Everyday Justice. We've got short presentations here from each of John Naroka, the CEO of Mills Oakley, and also to Lewis Patrick, the acting CEO of the College of Law. Just watch now as John and Lewis each share with us their kind remarks on this fantastic launch day.
Hello everyone and welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Naroka and I'm the CEO of Mills Oakley. Well, today is a very proud day for our firm because it marks the official launch of our pro bono law firm, Everyday Justice. Now, most of you know that Everyday Justice was soft launched in January, and a lot of work's happened since then to get the firm up and running. Everyday Justice now has a physical presence in every Mills Oakley office. We've got IT and admin support on tap, and even more importantly, we've recruited the wonderful staff and interns who are now assisting vulnerable clients all around the country. So today is about celebrating everything that's been done to get Everyday Justice up and running. It's about thanking those of you who've played a vital part in helping get Everyday Justice to this point. But first, I'd like to talk about some background on why we launched Everyday Justice. Here at Mills Oakley, we spend a lot of time talking about the missing middle. That means people who can't afford a lawyer, but don't qualify for legal aid. Well, over the past 10 years, we've watched the missing middle grow, and we partnered with community groups to address the problem, but we wanted to do more. We've seen a surging demand for legal advice on everyday issues such as employment law, tenancy, credit, and debt. We saw everyday issues for everyday Australians, and that was the seed for Everyday Justice. 2020 arrived, and what a year it was. Floods, bushfires, and of course, a full-blown pandemic. We knew these things were going to hit the missing middle hard, and we didn't want to wait any longer. So we asked Luke Geary to put together a proposal for Everyday Justice. And Everyday Justice has been built around three core principles. The first is the vision of serving the missing middle. The second is the idea of accessibility, And that's because we want to ensure clients can access everyday justice, even if they don't live near a Mills Oakley office, and even if they don't live in a big capital city. So that's why the everyday justice model emphasises online and telephone advice. So to that end, we're working closely with 2 legal tech companies committed to improving access to justice in Australia, Joseph Legal and Action Step. Both companies do wonderful work with community legal service providers. Thanks to them, we're able to triage client queries and help vulnerable people, including those with disabilities, the elderly, and those living in regional, rural, and remote communities. In short, these people now have access to help, but without needing to travel great distances to obtain it. The third core principle for everyday justice is providing opportunities for law students. We're proud to partner with the College of Law to identify suitable candidates for our internship program Australian-wide. Interns can complete their 75 days of professional training while making a difference to the lives of those in need. And our interns come to us from very diverse backgrounds. They may be embarking on the second phase of their career. They may be taking the first step in a much longer term career in social justice. And so to all of our interns, whatever your background may be, thank you for your contribution, and I hope you're enjoying your time with us. Because we're proud of what Everyday Justice has achieved in its first few months. And as at the end of March, we already have assisted 81 clients. And as you'd expect, we've been helping many clients with credit and debt issues. We've also received many tenancy and employment law queries. And it's deeply satisfying to see Everyday Justice doing the good work we hoped it would do. And while it's been a team effort, of course, I do want to single out a few people who've been absolutely crucial to this launch. I'd like to thank the College of Law, and particularly Terry Mottershead of the College and Centre of Innovation. I'd also like to thank our friends at Joseph Legal and Action Step. And above all, I want to thank the 3 people at the very heart of Everyday Justice: Luke Geary, Amy Burton, and Lauren Stubbs. Thank you to those people, and thank you to all the wonderful people who've worked so hard to make Everyday Justice a reality. To each and every one of you, our most sincere thanks and congratulations on today's official launch. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Lewis Patrick, the Acting CEO and Chief Academic Officer at the College of Law. It's a great pleasure to be here with you for the launch of Everyday Justice. For those who don't know us, let me tell you a little bit about the College of Law. The College has been the leading provider of postgraduate legal education in Australia for more than 4 decades. We have offices in Brisbane, Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth. You'll also come across us in New Zealand, Asia and the UK. As John mentioned, the legal world has changed. We had seen that and heard that from the thousands of legal practitioners who have graduated from our programs. And in 2016, we decided to help support that transformation in a significant way. In 2016, we established the Centre for Legal Innovation as a think tank to monitor legal market trends and translate them into practical solutions for those in legal practice. Since then, the Centre has also evolved into a pro bono arm of the college, providing all its deliverables free of charge. Given this history, when we first started discussing this collaboration with Mills Oakley, our shared commitment to redressing the access to justice imbalance in Australia was immediately apparent. Our collaboration with Everyday Justice has provided the opportunity to bring together our core focus on education and support entry-level graduates to engage in contemporary legal practice in a way that is real, purposeful, personal, and consistent with their and our commitment to the social justice sector. I'm delighted to report that to date, most of the internship positions John referred to earlier in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Canberra and Perth have been filled by College of Law students. We actively promote this opportunity at the college. It really is an outstanding opportunity and our students have embraced it with great enthusiasm. We're very sure that that enthusiasm will continue. Everyday Justice is a living example of how innovation and legal tech can combine to provide legal services where they are most needed. On behalf of the College and the Centre for Legal Innovation, I congratulate Mills Oakley for its vision, and I'd like to thank John, Luke, Vera, Amy, Lauren, and the teams behind that vision at Mills Oakley and Everyday Justice for all their hard work. We look forward to actively contributing to the ongoing success of Everyday Justice through our enthusiastic and passionate students and staff, and through the CLI and its Executive Director, Terry Mottershead. All of us at the College of Law, congratulations on the launch.
Well, thank you to each of John and Lewis. Thank you to each of John and Lewis for those remarks. The next part of our launch here is we have our very special guest keynote speaker, and that is Reverend Tim Costello. Now, we've had some technical difficulties coming into this launch event. We're all amateurs doing our best, but what we've managed to do is we've got Tim on the phone in front of the speaker, and Luke Kendall is busily putting up a picture of Tim to cover what other image you can see, hopefully not me. There we go, there's Reverend Tim, I'll introduce him now. Reverend Tim Costello is one of Australia's most respected community leaders, and he's a sought-after voice on social justice issues, leadership and ethics. For 13 years, until October 2016, Tim was the Chief Executive of World Vision Australia. He's currently the Executive Director of Micro Australia and also a Director of Ethical Voice. Initially, Tim studied law and education at Monash University, followed by theology at the International Baptist Seminary in Switzerland. He also received a master's degree in theology from the Melbourne College of Divinity. In 2006, and this is no surprise to those who know or have ever had any interaction with Tim, he was named Victoria's Australian of the Year. In 2005, he was made an Officer of the Order of Australia. 2004, he was named Victorian of the Year, and in 1997 was named as one of Australia's 100 National Living Treasures. Well, without further ado, I want to welcome Tim to speak with us today. And Tim, thank you for your time, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Well, thank you very much, and apologies, Microsoft failed me, which only goes to prove never trust multinationals, I guess. But the phone is working, and I just want to congratulate you all on this initiative. The one bit missed out on that CV was that for 15 years I was a solicitor, mainly doing court appearance work, and I broke my teeth in St Kilda, working in a storefront legal practice with a lot of the sort of clients that you now in Everyday Justice are offering access to the law to. So I just want to say this goes very close to my heart, and it shaped and formed me, that legal storefront poverty law focus work that I think will be fundamental in your training and hopefully your formation too. And of course, the bigger point is that law is one of the few instruments that we have to deal with embedded hierarchy and privilege. The book that has influenced me very most in the COVID period is Isabel Wilkerson's book, Caste, The Lies That Divide Us. And she distinguishes as an Afro-American race and caste, and says caste is even bigger than simply race. It's the defined ranking that seeks to keep someone in their place, elevating or denigrating that person on the basis of their perceived category. That's casteism, as she says. What we know is that the law is blind, that it is meant to be equal access, that sovereignty, when based in the individual, the fundamental principle of liberal thinking, really says equal access, equal justice is the mechanism to overcome what is always an embedded hierarchy of wealth, of birth, of education, of social economic background. We certainly know that law can't do that job of being a tool to break down caste if there isn't equal access. And so many people who otherwise should have an equal access to justice miss out, and that's why Everyday Justice, the initiative you are participating in, is so fundamental for a truly liberal society, for breaking down that embedded hierarchy and defined ranking that humans just naturally do. The word caste is what she's using that for. I found that in my 15 years as a lawyer, doing storefront street legal work. I think you'll find that it has shaped who I am, and I saw law as fundamentally important to impart dignity, inherent worth, just by knowing a client, knowing someone is there for me. The justice game may not mean they win. It may not mean they always get justice, but to have someone who is there with them and for them and listening to their sense of grievance and case for justice is just so fundamentally important for a truly liberal society in the best sense of that word, liberal. So let me finish by saying congratulations on the work you're doing, on the interns that are part of it. I think this will shape you profoundly, as it did me. All the best, and onwards and upwards for this project. Thank you.
Reverend Tim, thank you for those remarks, and they resonate very much with us as to issues of access to justice and equality under the law. We are grateful for your time today and your support, so thank you very much.
That's a pleasure. Thank you.
Friends, the next part of our session today is a little bit more intimate. We have on screen now, you can see Vera, Amy and Lauren, and Vera is going to use a few moments now to get to know Amy and Lauren a little bit better, and also to ask them a little bit about the service that will hopefully give you a more three-dimensional understanding of it. So I'll hand over to Vera. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. So I'm Vera and I'm on the board with Luke of Everyday Justice along with Terry, and also a partner here at Mills Oakley. To my right, I have two lovely ladies. The lady to my immediate right is Amy Burton, who's the managing lawyer of Everyday Justice, and to her right is Lauren Stubbs, the associate lawyer in the team. So we thought we'd have a Q&A for a few minutes to get to learn a little bit more about what Everyday Justice has been doing since it opened back in January. And I'll start by asking each of you to tell me a little bit about yourself. So let's start with Amy.
All right. Hello. I am the managing lawyer of Everyday Justice. I have been a lawyer for about 10 years now. Previous to working at Everyday Justice, I worked at Salvos Legal for about 5 years, providing pro bono advice to many people in need, particularly in areas of family law, immigration law, criminal law, debt matters. Then I went over to the US, to Washington, DC on a scholarship through the John Monash Foundation to study how we could better improve access to justice in Australia and learn about some of the creative strategies they were using to improve access to justice. And upon returning to Australia, I did a bit more research about how things were looking on the ground in Australia. And since then, I've been working with Luke and Lauren on setting up Everyday Justice, and here we are today.
Thank you, Amy. How about you, Lauren?
So I'm Lauren, I'm the associate lawyer in the team. Prior to coming on board in December last year, I worked for the last 6 years at Legal Aid New South Wales. So I was in a whole range of teams, but predominantly I worked in the civil law service for Aboriginal communities. I then moved into our housing team to do tenancy work, and following that did administrative law in our government law team, predominantly focusing on NDIS matters. As I said, I've been here since December, and it's been a wonderful ride with Amy, Luke and Vera.
Well, talking about a wonderful ride, can you each tell me what you have found to be the most exciting aspect of setting up Everyday Justice and also working in it?
Okay, I'll start. The most interesting thing for me is that back in September last year, I sat down with Luke and we were brainstorming ideas for how we could possibly set up a new service in Mills Oakley. And so to see an idea form on paper, well, first brainstorming and then putting it down in paper, and it seeming like it was quite a lofty goal, to actually seeing it come together over the next few months doing all what seemed like quite small tasks of working out a name for the service, developing a logo, putting together the website, hiring Lauren, hiring our interns, to then have it launch, or soft launch in January. And it's just been wonderful to see an idea actually come into fruition and to be achieving the goals that we were hoping that it would set out to achieve.
Fantastic. What about you, Lauren?
I guess for me, it's been really exciting to be able to do such a broad range of work. Previously, I'd always been in specialist teams doing really specialist work, and we've just seen such a huge range of matters. So from employment to debt to environment and planning, bankruptcy, there's a whole host of different things, and it's really given me an opportunity to learn about a whole heap of different areas of law. And we have the added benefit of having a number of Mills Oakley lawyers who have been really supportive and really helpful in getting across areas of law that we might not have dealt with much before. So in particular for me, the environment and planning team and the employment law team have always been really happy to help me out. So it's been really nice learning a lot and working with all new people.
We know that there are barriers to people accessing legal services. What would you identify as being the most important barriers, and how do you see everyday justice addressing those barriers?
I would say one of the biggest barriers is the cost of legal services, and especially since COVID lockdowns, people being able to make a decision about whether they can afford legal services is even more difficult now. And so there are so many people who fall through the gaps of being eligible for legal aid, or being able to get some assistance from our government-funded community legal centres, to then taking that next step up to being able to pay $200 to $300 an hour for a lawyer. So I think that's one of the biggest issues, but also being able to physically go to an office to see a lawyer is a big impediment for many people, especially if they're experiencing a disability or they're in rural or regional areas, and the distance they may have to drive to see a lawyer prevents them from doing so. And so for us, it was really important to set up a service that was national and that it was over the phone and over video conference and email, so that people who otherwise wouldn't easily be able to speak to a lawyer would be able to do so.
Okay. Lauren?
Well, I guess what we have done in setting up Everyday Justice is try to look at how we can bridge those gaps or deal with those barriers. And I mean, I guess firstly, our service is free, so that deals with the cost issue. In terms of location, I mean, any legal service is going to have the barrier of not being able to have physical offices located everywhere across the country, but we've tried to make ourselves, absent being able to have hundreds of offices, we've tried to make ourselves as accessible as possible, and be as flexible as possible in how clients can approach us. We don't really have any strict form of how they do that. There's email, there's phone, there's chatbots. We do have a physical presence in every Mills Oakley office. So we try to be as accessible as possible. And an example of that is we had a client who had a pretty significant disability. She had an acquired brain injury and she really did not feel comfortable speaking to us over the phone. And so she preferred to send us her initial instructions in writing via email. And we have no problem doing that. It's just about what works best for our clients. So we just try to do that.
And I think, talking about accessibility, what has really touched me is the fact that when clients do actually contact Everyday Justice, they get almost an immediate response. And from what I've heard, many of them are quite surprised by that, because obviously when they're dealing with other agencies, there's often a delay, which then obviously adds to their angst and frustration. So to be able to reach out to Everyday Justice and be in contact with someone so quickly, I think is brilliant, and obviously makes them feel as if, yes, they've actually found someone who's going to help them. So well done on that front.
Thank you.
So talking about technology and how that helps us, how have you found technology to assist you, Amy, in delivering the services at Everyday Justice?
It's assisted us greatly. I have been following a group called Joseph Legal for some time now, and I was very impressed by their background in working with community legal services to try to make their services more efficient and to be able to reach people as quickly as possible. So as soon as we had approval to set up Everyday Justice, I got on the phone to Joseph Legal and said that we wanted to set up a chatbot for our client intake so that clients could easily go onto our website, and we'll show a demo of that a bit later. They can very quickly type in what their legal issue is. They can give all of their personal information that's needed to be able to do some client intake with them, and then their form gets sent to us. We can very quickly then pick up the phone and speak to a client and focus on their legal issues without having to spend a lot of time going through all the initial intake, because that's already been done. And then even better is that Joseph Legal's bot syncs with our practice management system, Action Steps. So we can save so much admin time by having all that data automatically going into our system. So we're spending many more hours being able to focus on giving advice to clients, researching their issues, rather than the administrative side of entering in all their details and running conflict checks.
I'm looking forward to the demonstration. Lauren, why don't you tell us a little bit about the sorts of work you've seen coming in since January?
Sure. As I said, we've had a really wide range of legal issues. The most common ones have been employment law, tenancy, and credit and debt. So together they make up about 50% of our workload. About 50% of our clients are receiving government benefits, and the average income of our clients is about $700. So we're getting a lot of clients coming to us about the practice areas that we did identify as being in high need, and we're getting a lot of clients coming to us who are very squarely in that missing middle ground, where they're earning over what they would be able to receive legal aid for, but earning far less than what they would need to pay for a private lawyer. We've also seen a lot of small business matters, which was quite unexpected. But we've seen a lot of small business matters predominantly as a result of COVID. A lot of small businesses have had pretty severe financial hardship issues as a result of COVID, and we're seeing a lot of commercial lease issues in that respect. And as it turns out, there's very few legal services that will provide free legal assistance to small businesses. So that's something that we have made ourselves available to do in the absence of that service being available elsewhere. The other thing is we've been getting a lot of really great referrals across the board. So a lot of our referrals have been coming from legal aid, from community legal centres, the tenants union, and from other private law firms, which has been really great because one of our eligibility criteria is whether they're eligible for those services. And so for me, all of my litigation matters at the moment, I have a matter in the Land and Environment Court and a matter in the Supreme Court, and both of those were referrals from Legal Aid New South Wales, probably because I used to work there, but that's been really great as well in terms of being able to get referrals through that way.
And we've seen, what, hundreds of inquiries come in since we started, is that right?
I think we're just over 250 inquiries.
We've had about 350 people use our bot.
Since January?
Yeah.
And many more phone calls.
Right.
Yeah.
Really impressive. I wonder about whether you sleep at night, but we won't go there. We will shortly be seeing a video about our internship program. Those doing their PLT, how do they actually apply to become part of that program?
So we have an email address, info@everydayjustice.com.au, and we encourage applicants to send through a CV and cover letter direct through there. We're also on the College of Law job board, and there's a way that you can submit your CV directly through there. That also comes through to us as an email. So it's very straightforward. We have internship spots available very frequently, and most of our interns are working 2 to 3 days a week, so we can be quite flexible.
And you can also be flexible in terms of the time period that they're actually working here, is that right?
Yes, so most people who are going through the College of Law program have to do 75 days of work experience, but we have come across people who have already done some of those days already, so we can work around the days that they need. But so far we've found people want to stay for longer than their days, or they might start on 1 or 2 days with us and then extend up, because there is so much scope to have contact with clients and get some real hands-on experience.
Brilliant. And how would people actually refer clients to Everyday Justice? What's the best way?
So we don't really have any set way to refer clients to us. As I said, we're trying to be as flexible as possible. So people can call us, they can email us, they can direct clients to our chatbot, really whatever works best for that particular client, whether it's a cold referral or warm referral, and whatever works best for whoever is, that's my pen, referring them to us. You can find our eligibility criteria on the website, so that gives people a pretty good indication of what we will and won't do. We do have a list of practice areas that is kind of our, definite yes, and we have a list of practice areas that are our definite no's. Outside of that, we can be flexible depending on the client's legal issue and depending on our capacity and whether they meet the rest of our eligibility criteria. We're conscious of our capacity, being 2 women in the team. We do have a wonderful team of interns as well, but we do have priority clients and priority areas that are all also outlined in our eligibility criteria, so people can have a look at that to see whether their clients would meet that. But again, as I said, we're pretty flexible because the whole point is to fill the gap of people who aren't having their legal needs met by other legal services. So in some circumstances, we may need to be flexible about the provision of our services to make sure we're hitting that group.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you both.
Thank you.
I think it's been fantastic hearing about what you're doing, and thank you for sharing your experiences to date. And I want to thank you for the fantastic work you've been doing so far. So thank you very much.
Thanks for your ongoing support too, Vera.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And while we're at it, thank you all. Next up on our schedule for today, we've got 2 short videos, and I think you'll find them very informative. The first video will be an actual demonstration by Amy of some of the legal tech that we're using here at Everyday Justice. And she'll talk through how that works from a client interface perspective and how that client data then feeds into the back end, which is the practice management software, to help streamline this intake process so that lawyers can be lawyers giving legal advice, not transmitting data from one system to another. The second video is a video produced really by our interns themselves to try and demonstrate what a day in the life of an intern looks like. And for those who have friends, family members or colleagues who might be interested in internship here at Everyday Justice, I hope that you'll find this very illustrative of what that will on the ground look like. So we'll put those videos on now.
When we set up Everyday Justice, we suspected that we would receive a high level of demand from people seeking free legal services. So what we did is we worked with Joseph Legal to set up a user-friendly, efficient client intake bot so that whenever a client needs our assistance, they're encouraged to go onto our website and go through our intake process rather than us needing to answer phones all day, every day. So Joseph gave us some training on their back-end system, and as you'll see, it's quite a complex flow chart that we've set up of the questions that we need to ask clients and all possible responses. But when you go to the front end on our website, it's very user-friendly. So you'll see here that clients go to Get Help Now on our website. They're introduced with a list of the practice areas we can and can't help with. And then clients are asked what their legal issue is. And obviously, a lot of people won't know how to categorize what their legal issue is. So if they can have a guess, which we encourage them to do. Otherwise, they can click other, I don't know, I have multiple legal issues. But for the purposes of this survey, we'll go for employment law. We then ask clients to give more information about their legal issue, and we encourage clients to write a few sentences, but we've had some quite lengthy responses, but it gives us a good idea of what a client's needing help with. So let's just say employer owes me money. In order to call a client, we then need their details. Oops. And the best phone number. And then we need to do conflict checks. So to make that process really efficient, we ask clients here if there's another party involved. Obviously, some people aren't sure, and that in those instances, we will need to do a manual conflict check. But when clients can enter the details, and many have, that's really helpful for us. We then ask a client whether they've been to Legal Aid or a community legal centre, and that's really important for us because we think that government-funded free legal services should be a priority for any individual seeking free legal assistance, and we're there to then fill in the gaps if legal aid or a CLC can't help for whatever reason. So we'll ask clients what advice they received, and we will press them for further information if we don't get enough information in this answer. So we'll say they can't go to court with me. We'll ask clients if they're currently working. Here we'll say no. If they're on Centrelink benefits, we ask for those details. Now we ask for estimated weekly household income, and that's because if a client needs further assistance, limited assistance or full representation, we have an eligibility test, and one of the factors is whether a client may be able to pay for legal services. We have a pretty broad criteria and we will consider extenuating factors such as whether clients owe big debts or they've got a lot of other things going on in their lives. But it's useful to know what that income level is, and also to help us get a snapshot of what the span of income levels are for people who we would consider to be in the missing middle. We then ask if there's any dependents, because that will affect the means test. We then ask clients if they've got an email address. Most do, but if they don't, they can say no, and then we can say, ask for an address, and that's in case we need to write any letters in the future. And then we ask for a postcode. Now that's all the information we need from a client, and we tell them that we'll get back to them within 3 business days to give them a call, find out more information about their matter, perhaps ask for some extra documents, and in some instances we can give the phone advice on the spot there. We have had a very good track record of calling clients back much sooner than the next 3 business days. Most calls are made that day or the day after, but we do like to manage expectations carefully, so we say within the next 3 business days. Now that form goes through to Lauren and I via email. We can also see it on our back end of Joseph, and we can see how many people have used our system. So 337 so far. We have a summary of the matter, and all of those summaries are stored in that system. But then the best thing is that when we go to our action step, which is our practice management software, we get an alert down at Web Forms when someone has used the chat, and then all of their information is put into our practice management software system automatically. So all we need to do is press process. We're then asked for the contact details of the other party, which I won't go through now. We'll skip that contact for now, but that enables us to do a conflict check within our system. We then need to do another one with the Mills Oakley system. And then it will identify me as the client and ask whether it's the person who is already in the system. We'll skip that contact for now. And then we are automatically prompted to set up a matter for this client. So we can go employment. We would then need to add the details, and then all the information about the matter, or quite a lot of it, is contained here already because someone has already gone through our client intake form. And then we create the matter. Obviously we can't do it right now because I haven't entered all the details in, but it'll go automatically there, and then we're able to assist a client from that point onwards. And that's our client intake system. Hi, welcome to Everyday Justice. We're a new free legal service owned by Mills Oakley. I'm Amy, I'm the managing lawyer.
And I'm Lauren, I'm the associate lawyer in the team. Today we're just going to tell you a little bit about our internship program and show you around our offices, so come with us. have anywhere between 10 to 14 interns at any one time. We've got interns in every office across the country, so in every Mills Oakley office. So Sydney, Perth, Brisbane, Melbourne and Canberra. Our interns manage our phone line, so there's a 1-800 number that clients can call between 9 to 5 Sydney time. Our interns manage that phone on a roster, and any calls that come through, they'll answer. They'll get some information about the client's legal issue, and that will then go through to the lawyers to have a look at. Following that, the interns might then do some follow-up work. So they might request further documents from the client, request further information. They might do some research about their legal issue. And often the interns will then draft up the advice that they propose we give to the clients. Other than that, the interns also do a whole heap of legal research, and they do a lot of other client calls or client meetings. This morning, even one of our interns went along to court to watch one of our proceedings play out. So there's a whole range of things that they get to do, and we're pretty keen for them to jump in and have a crack at whatever they're interested in.
Standard day, it's never ever the same. Every day there's a new matter, which is what originally attracted me to the position in Everyday Justice, was the broad spectrum of practice areas that they cover. Some of the issues that I've had to deal with was insolvencies to corporate disputes to residential tenancy matters to corporate tenancy matters. Also, family provision is another one that's sort of come across the desk as well. So there's a really broad spectrum of different matters that we see every day.
Most of our interns work part-time, so a lot of them will job share their positions. Most of them work 2 to 4 days a week, and there's anywhere between 2 to 3 desks per office.
Our interns are supported by Mills Oakley partners who act as their professional development mentors, and they get an opportunity to meet with their mentors once a week or fortnight to get a better understanding of the mentor's legal career, the steps that they took to get where they are, some insights into the day-to-day life of being a lawyer, as well as some tips for how our interns can put their best foot forward to get a job in whatever legal area that they're interested in.
Coming out of study, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I more knew what I didn't want to do. The broad spectrum of matters that the firm covers was something that initially attracted me to it.
One of the great things about Everyday Justice is it's owned and supported so closely by Mills Oakley, and that partnership has been so strong from day one. We speak to our insolvency team a lot, for example, because there are a lot of credit and debt issues at the moment, and we might need some guidance with those. And even if we need some tips on the best steps forward in a matter, there'll always be a partner or an associate or a senior associate who we can pick up the phone and have a chat to about next steps.
It's never the same. It's always interesting. It's always fast paced. I come in, I check my emails. Then my supervisor, who's wonderful, will give me a list of clients to call, following up with the court. I'm following up with research. My favourite part of the day is interviewing clients and doing the intake with them. I love speaking to the clients. I love hearing about their problems and trying to, think about how we can solve issues for them, give them legal options. And I love working with a team of people who can guide me, and there's so many experts here, so it's really wonderful.
Well, friends, I hope you found that video presentation of both the chatbot experience from the clients interesting and informative. And for those who are watching this presentation today who work for those services that provide other ancillary services to people in need, I hope that you find that that is not a confronting experience for people and a simple one for people to follow. It certainly does make the intake process, I can say personally, from having worked in the humanitarian law service for the last 20 years, so much less stressful for the practitioners, but I know from client feedback also for the clients. And so I want to encourage you to work with your clients as they go through that process, and to the extent there's any feedback that you are able to offer us to improve that service, I welcome that. We're getting to the tail end of our presentation today. I thank you all for your patience. We've had a few questions come in overnight on email from a number of people who are in the audience here today, and I wanted to just take a few minutes now to read those questions aloud and ask the team, Amy, Lauren and Vera, of course, if they can do their best to answer those questions. The first question we have is, how will services be delivered to clients who are vulnerable and digitally excluded, that is, can't use the chatbot? Lauren, you've had some thought about this. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are using the chatbot, and that's great, but there are a lot of clients who obviously have indicated that that's really difficult for them. So again, we try to be as flexible as possible. The first option is obviously by phone, but that can sometimes complicate things if we need to get documents from clients or if something just doesn't work in terms of them calling us. So what we've been doing is working a lot with non-legal services to make sure that clients can still access us. So for example, if clients have a whole host of documents that they need to send us, a lot of clients will link them up with disability advocates, caseworkers at various charities, all sorts of things, whatever works best for them and whatever's available in their area, so that they can go in there and we'll book an appointment with them and their caseworker or whoever it might be. And that person can, you know, be on their computer and in real time send us the documents. They can sit there and support the client throughout the appointment. And if we provide them with any ongoing assistance, they can be involved as much or as little as need be. Another example is we've had to get documents executed for courts at pretty short notice, and so a lot of the legal aids, at least across New South Wales, have been really helpful in helping execute those affidavits in the areas where those clients live to make sure that they're not prejudiced by their location. So we're pretty keen to think creatively about how we can best deliver legal services. And the most important thing for us is we often just ask the client what would be easiest for them and then try to make that happen.
Thank you. The next set of questions actually are interesting because of who's sent them through. I won't identify individually who that is, but I can say it's an old friend of mine who happens to be the registrar of a particular superior court. The questions will give you insight into the need clearly that the courts are seeing here, because they really are very specific. First question, I might ask Amy if you could first deal with these, please. The first question is, are you happy for the court to refer self-represented litigants who require legal assistance to everyday justice?
Absolutely. And we've had federal courts around the country already referring people, especially with bankruptcy matters. And so we've seen a few of those come through from Victoria and WA. So any court's welcome to send those referrals through. Great.
And are there any types of matters or any limitations on that, and any types of matters that you're not in a position to deal with?
Oh, I mean, yeah, there's a list on our website, but by example, the types of matters that we pretty much definitely won't do are things like immigration, Centrelink, NDIS, property, workers insurance. There's a full list on our website, but there are a list of matters that we definitely won't do.
And I think that list is informed by either a natural conflict of interest between who Mills Oakley itself acts for example, in immigration or in social services, social security law, but otherwise due to services or areas of law where perhaps there is less of an identified need as some of the more pressing areas that you're involved in.
Yeah.
And Amy, the registrar's asked, will you be providing one-off legal advice or providing ongoing assistance, including representing parties in litigation, and is there any limit to this?
Okay, well, we can do all of those things. So provided that it's a client has an issue in a practice area we can help with, then we will give them phone advice about their matter, and we'll do whatever we can to find the answer for them and to guide them through their matter. And often that's all clients need. But there are other instances where we will feel like a client needs more help than that, and we can provide them with limited assistance with their matter. So that might be that they have a case in NCAT or VCAT and they just need some help preparing their submissions, thinking about what evidence will be useful and what won't be. And we've had many back and forth exchanges with clients via email where we are helping them put together the documents that they need for matters like that. And if we feel like a client satisfies our eligibility test and really requires some hands-on assistance, then we can take their matter on as a full representation matter. Obviously, our resources are more limited to take on a matter full-time, but we have already taken on 5 matters full-time in the short time that we've been around, and we've been attending court matters, we've been briefing out to counsel to ensure clients get the best representation possible.
And these are matters where they've unfortunately been unable to secure representation from any other service, but which also meet the public interest criteria that I was talking about when referring from our constitution. So that's great. And probably the other question that was pressing from the registrar was, are there any plans for linking self-represented litigants with other community support services, for example, particularly regarding mental health support?
Absolutely, and we are reaching out to services who work in that space to develop some plans going forward for what we can do. And if anyone is listening to this launch who works in the space and has some suggestions, we'd be really eager to hear from you.
And you both obviously have existing networks, having been in humanitarian law for many years now, so no doubt that will be drawn upon. The last question, just before I wrap it up for everyone here today, is the question that came through was, it's an interesting one, and I suppose it's an obvious one. It is, how do we reconcile the fact that as a commercial law firm, which Mills Oakley obviously is, we're in the business of charging significant amounts of money for our services to clients, but we give those same services away for free to other clients through Everyday Justice. And that's really referencing the fact that there's no compromised quality in terms of what's provided. And I mean, I'd like to answer that specifically by referring back to what Reverend Tim said, really about the significance of equal access to law, to the rule of law, and to the ability of people to access justice. Lauren, you mentioned a figure earlier about some of the data that we've captured, giving us an indication of the average income of the Everyday Justice client being approximately $700 a week. What can you tell us about where that figure sits in general other census data?
So, I mean, I guess firstly, that figure is pretty much $250 above the poverty line for a single person in Australia, and it's actually below the poverty line for a person who is single with 2 dependents. And single parents are a priority client of ours and have been identified as a priority client within that cohort of the missing middle. So while we do accept people who maybe have a higher income than traditionally would go to legal aid or CLCs or be subject to a means test, we still do have a means test, and it still is at a threshold of addressing whether or not a person can afford a private lawyer. It's part of our eligibility criteria, so there's no suggestion that we're taking on clients who could pay for legal services. The whole point is that none of our clients would be able to access those services if not for free legal assistance.
And if a client is assessed as being able to afford a legal service, then we will help them to try and find a service that would be suitable to them, because it is a really challenging landscape to understand how to access a lawyer. And if someone has reached the point of identifying that they have a legal need and they need some help, then we will try to guide them through that process.
And for those that are old enough to remember being taught Latin in school, sorry, Vera.
No, you're not.
The term pro bono publicum doesn't simply mean free legal services. In fact, it doesn't mean that at all. It means for the public good. And I think that's really what this is about. It's about a law firm providing a public interest service for people in need so that everyone can have that equal platform to be able to access justice. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being so willing to participate in this historic event. I'm very proud to be sitting here alongside these wonderful ladies, and also to be part of a very, very innovative service that we've had a hand in bringing up to a standing existence. I want to thank a number of people. Firstly, it's a person who is very shy, very humble, and probably has no idea how grateful I am. It's a special counsel in our Brisbane office by the name of Stuart O'Neill, who has helped me put together so much paperwork that brings together the relationship between Mills Oakley and Everyday Justice, and Everyday Justice, Mills Oakley and the College of Law. So Stuart, you helped without any hesitation, without any request for assistance or any sort of consideration, and you did it as a matter of urgency. I'm grateful for your help there.
And continues to help us
and
very often with our matters.
That being said, there are so many Mills Oakley lawyers who have already participated in supporting everyday justice clients. I won't name you individually, but I am grateful that you've been able to do so as such an enthusiastic participant of this important service. I want to thank Luke Kendall, who, whilst no one has seen him on the screen today, has been sweating like no tomorrow to make sure that today worked well. Luke, I'm very grateful for all the time that you've put in, and your team behind the scenes, to make this a very functional, national, in fact international. I have a judge who is watching right now from Canada in the middle of the night, and without this ability to perform a service that really represents everyday justice being accessible everywhere to anyone, without your help we wouldn't be able to do this. Getting towards the end, of course, I want to thank John Naroka and the leadership here at Mills Oakley for believing in this initiative and for fully getting behind it to support its existence now and moving forward. And certainly in our partnership with the College of Law, I want to thank Lewis Patrick, of course, but also certainly Terry Mottershead for her very significant and ongoing assistance as a board member, as a champion, and as a friend. Finally, I want to say thank you to those interns who have come through our program so far, those who are still in our program, and for those that are looking forward to joining our program. You are the engine room of this service, and without your support, without your generous commitment, and without your enthusiasm, the people that we serve here at Everyday Justice wouldn't stand a chance. So be proud of what you learn here, take it forward into your legal professional career, and make an impact in your communities. Thank you, everyone. It being the end of our service, those Mills Oakley lawyers who have watched, thank you. Now get back to work. Thank you.